The shuttle doors opened with a soft hiss. Park Do-yoon took a deep breath and stepped onto the Volani space station called Gentle Dawn. He was the first human to ever live here. He hoped the aliens would welcome him. He was wrong. The docking bay was full of Volani people waiting to see the human arrive. They had blue skin that you could almost see through, like colored glass. They had 4 arms and large silver eyes. They were thin and graceful, and they moved like dancers, even when they were just walking. But when Do-yoon appeared, everything changed. The crowd moved back. Mothers grabbed their children. Fathers pushed their families behind them. The children stared at Do-yoon with their huge silver eyes, and those eyes were full of fear. Do-yoon smiled at them. He wanted to look friendly. A child screamed. Do-yoon quickly closed his mouth. He forgot. Humans show teeth when they smile. To the Volani, showing teeth meant you wanted to bite. You wanted to eat. You were a predator ready to hunt. A station officer came forward. Her name tag said Commander Rissa. She walked toward Do-yoon slowly, like she was approaching a dangerous animal. She kept her 4 hands visible and open, the way you might show a wild beast that you had no weapons. "Welcome to Gentle Dawn," she said. Her voice was calm, but Do-yoon could see her hands shaking. "Please follow me. Walk slowly. No sudden moves." Do-yoon nodded. He understood. To these people, he was the monster from their nightmares. As they walked through the station, Do-yoon saw the Volani press themselves against walls to let him pass. They covered their children's eyes. They whispered to each other in their own language. Do-yoon did not need to understand the words. He knew what they were saying. The Death Worlder is here. The Predator has come. Keep the children safe. Do-yoon had learned about this before he came. Humans came from Earth, and Earth was what other species called a death world. The gravity was too strong. The weather was too wild. The animals were too dangerous. And somehow, humans had survived all of it. They had become the top predator on a planet full of predators. To the gentle Volani, this made humans terrifying. They had heard stories about humans. Humans could run for hours without stopping, chasing prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. Humans could heal from wounds that would kill other species. Humans ate plants that were poisonous and called them spices. Humans drank rotted plant juice and called it wine. Humans kept wolves in their homes as pets. Every story made humans sound more and more like monsters. Commander Rissa led Do-yoon to his quarters. The room was in the family wing of the station, surrounded by apartments where Volani families lived with their children. "There was a mistake with housing assignments," Rissa explained. She looked embarrassed. "We requested you be placed in the diplomatic section, but the system assigned you here automatically. We can try to move you, but it might take several weeks." "It's fine," Do-yoon said. He kept his voice soft and low. "I don't want to cause trouble." Rissa looked at him strangely, like she did not expect the monster to be polite. After she left, Do-yoon stood alone in his small room. Through the thin walls, he could hear voices. A mother was talking to her children next door. "Stay inside," the mother said. "Do not go into the hallway. Do not look at it. Do not talk to it." It, not him. It got too high and sat down on his bed and put his head in his hands. The next few days were hard. Whenever Do-yoon left his room, the hallway would empty. Parents rushed their children inside. Doors slammed shut. He could hear locks clicking. He tried to show he was not dangerous. He walked slowly. He kept his hands visible. He never smiled. He never laughed, because Volani might think he was growling. He spoke quietly, and only when needed. Nothing worked. The family next door was led by a mother named Elora. She had 5 children, all young. Do-yoon learned their names by listening through the wall. The children were called Tilly, Moru, Fen, Kessa, and Bryn. Tilly was the youngest and smallest. For 3 days after Do-yoon arrived, Elora did not let her children leave their home. Not for school, not for meals in the community hall, not for anything. Do-yoon heard the children complaining. "I want to go outside," Tilly said. "You cannot," Elora answered. "The human is out there. What will it do to us?" asked Moru, the oldest. "I do not know," Elora said. "But humans are predators. They hunt, they kill. We must be careful." Do-yoon closed his eyes and wished he could tell them the truth. He was not here to hunt. He was not here to kill. He was a cultural exchange officer. His job was to help humans and Vellani understand each other, to build friendship between their peoples. But how could he build friendship when everyone was afraid to even look at him? 1 week passed. Then 2 weeks. Do-yoon went to meetings and did his work. He wrote reports that nobody read. He attended dinners where he sat alone because nobody would sit near him. He walked through gardens where children ran away when they saw him coming at night. He lay in bed and stared at the ceiling. He thought about going home. He thought about giving up but Park Do-yoon was human, and humans did not give up easily. His grandmother used to tell him that humans survived ice ages and famines and wars because they never stopped trying. They never stopped hoping so Do-yoon decided to keep trying. He would find a way to show these people who he really was. Somehow, someday he just did not know that the chance would come so soon or in such a strange way. It was the middle of station night when everything went wrong. Do-yoon woke up to the sound of alarms. Red lights flashed in his room. A voice on the speakers said something in Vellani, speaking too fast for him to understand. Then it repeated in the common language. "Water system failure in Section 7. All residents must leave their rooms. Go to the emergency meeting point. This is not a practice. Repeat, this is not a practice." Do-yoon jumped out of bed and opened his door. Water was already covering the hallway floor. It came up to his ankles and was rising fast. Something had broken in the water recycling system, and now the hallway was flooding. All around him, doors opened. Vellani families rushed out of their homes. Parents carried children. Everyone was shouting and pushing toward the stairs at the end of the hall. The water made it hard to walk. The children were small, and the water was already up to their waists. Do-yoon saw Elora come out of her apartment next door. She was carrying 2 of her children and calling for the others. Moru came out holding Fen. Kessa stumbled behind them. "Where is Tilly?" Elora screamed. "Where is Tilly?" The smallest child was not there. Elora looked back at her flooding home, but the water was too deep now. Other Vellani grabbed her arms and pulled her toward the stairs. They told her the emergency teams would find Tilly. They told her she needed to save the children she had. Elora screamed her daughter's name as they pulled her away. Do-yoon did not think. He did not plan. His body moved on its own. He turned and pushed through the water, going the wrong way, away from the exit. The other Vellani stared at him but did not try to stop him. Perhaps they were too scared to touch him. Perhaps they were glad the predator was leaving. Do-yoon searched the hallway. The water was up to his knees now. He checked open doors. He looked under floating furniture. He called out, even though he knew his voice might scare the child more. "Tilly, Tilly, where are you?" He found her in a maintenance closet near the end of the hall. The door was broken, stuck halfway open. Tilly had run inside to hide when the alarm started. Now she was trapped, standing on a high shelf, shaking with fear as the water rose below her. When she saw Do-yoon, she screamed, "No! No! Go away! Monster! Monster!" Do-yoon stopped at the door. The water was rising. He needed to get her out now. But if he grabbed her, she might fight him. She might hurt herself. She might never recover from the terror, so he did something strange. He sat down. The cold water came up to his chest. He sat in the doorway of the closet, not blocking it, just sitting there. He pulled out his tablet from the waterproof pocket of his sleep clothes. The device was made for emergencies. It still worked. "I'm not going to hurt you," he said softly. "I'm just going to sit here. Is that okay?" Tilly did not answer. She pressed herself against the wall, her forearms wrapped around her small body, her silver eyes huge and wet with tears. Do-hyun opened a file on his tablet. It was a children's book. His grandmother had sent it to him before he left Earth. It was full of old Korean folk tales with pretty pictures. "Do you want to hear a story?" he asked. Tilly stared at him. Once upon a time, Do-hyun began reading. There was a clever rabbit who lived by the sea. He read slowly. He kept his voice gentle and calm. He did not look directly at Tilly. He looked at his tablet and read the story of the rabbit and the Dragon King. In the story, the Dragon King was sick and needed a rabbit's liver to get better. He sent a turtle to trick the rabbit and bring it to his underwater palace. But the rabbit was clever. When the turtle told him about the Dragon King's plan, the rabbit said he kept his liver outside his body, hidden in the forest. He tricked the turtle into taking him back to land so he could get his liver. And then he ran away and was free. As Do-hyun read, something amazing happened. Tilly stopped crying. She stopped pressing against the wall. She leaned forward a little bit to see the pictures on the tablet. "The rabbit tricked them?" she asked in a tiny voice. "Yes," Do-hyun said. He kept his eyes on the tablet. The rabbit was small and weak, but he was smart. He used his brain to escape. "I like rabbits," Tilly said quietly. The water stopped rising. The repair teams had found the broken pipe. But Do-hyun kept reading. He showed Tilly the pictures. He let her ask questions about the strange animals from Earth. He explained what a rabbit looked like, what a turtle was, what the ocean was like. When the rescue team finally arrived, they found something they did not expect. The human predator was sitting in cold water up to his shoulders. The tiny Vellani child was sitting on her shelf, no longer crying, leaning forward to look at pictures on a tablet while the human read to her in a soft voice. And the rabbit lived happily in his forest home, and he never trusted a turtle again. The end. "I want another story," Tilly said. Do-hyun smiled, but he remembered not to show his teeth. "Later," he said. "First, we need to get you back to your mother. She is very worried about you." He stood up slowly. His body was stiff from sitting in cold water. He reached out a hand to Tilly, and the rescue team held their breath. Tilly looked at his hand. She looked at his face. Then she reached out with one of her 4 small arms and let him help her down from the shelf. She did not run away. She did not scream. The rescue team led them both to the emergency area. Elora was there, crying and asking about her daughter. When she saw Tilly walking beside the human, holding one of his fingers with her tiny hand, Elora went very still. "Mama," Tilly said, "the human told me a story about a rabbit. I want to hear more stories." Elora looked at Do-hyun. Her silver eyes were full of something new, something that was not fear. "Thank you," she said. It was the first time any Vellani on the station had said those words to him. Do-hyun just nodded. "She was very brave," he said. "You have a brave daughter." That night, after everything was cleaned up and everyone went back to their homes, Do-hyun lay in bed and thought about what happened. He had not changed anything big. He had not made a speech or signed a treaty. He had just sat in cold water and read a story to a scared child. But maybe, he thought, that was how you started to build friendship. Not with big things, with small things, with patience, with stories. Through the wall, he heard Elora's voice. "Tell me about the rabbit again," Tilly was saying. And for the first time since he arrived at Gentle Dawn, Do-hyun smiled in the dark. Maybe there was hope after all. The news spread through the family wing like fire. The human saved a child. The human did not hunt her. The human told her a story. At first, people did not believe it. Some said Elora made it up. Some said the child was confused. Humans were predators. Everyone knew this. Predators did not save children. Predators did not tell bedtime stories. But Tilly would not stop talking about it. The rabbit tricked the dragon king. She told everyone who would listen. And there are animals on Earth with shells on their backs called turtles. And the human has more stories. So many more stories. He showed me his tablet. It has 100 stories inside. 3 days after the flood, there was a soft knock on Do-Yoon's door. He opened it to find Tilly standing in the hallway. She was alone. She looked nervous, but also excited. In her 4 hands, she held a small stuffed toy shaped like a Vellani animal. "Will you tell me another story?" she asked. Do-Yoon looked down the hallway. He saw Elora standing at a doorway, watching. She did not come closer, but she did not call her daughter back either. She just waited to see what would happen. "Of course," Do-Yoon said. He sat down on the floor of his room near the door, so Tilly could run away if she got scared. "Come in." Tilly sat across from him and hugged her stuffed toy tight. Do-Yoon opened his tablet and found another story. "This one is about a brother and sister who met a tiger," he said. "What is a tiger?" "A big cat. Very big. With orange fur and black stripes. It has sharp teeth and sharp claws. It is one of the most dangerous animals on Earth." Tilly's eyes went wide. "More dangerous than humans?" Do-Hyun laughed softly. "Tigers cannot use tools. They cannot make fire. They cannot work together the way humans do. So no. But they are still very scary." He read her the story. In it, a brother and sister were home alone when a tiger came to eat them. The tiger pretended to be their mother to trick them into opening the door. But the children were clever. They climbed a tall tree to escape. The tiger tried to climb after them, but the children asked the sky for help. The sky sent down a rope, and the children climbed up to become the sun and the moon. When the tiger tried to climb the rope, it broke, and the tiger fell and died. The children became the sun and moon? Tilly asked when the story was over. "That is what the old people believed," Do-Yoon said. "It is how they explained why the sun and moon exist. Every culture has stories like this. Stories that explain the world." Tilly was quiet for a moment. Then she asked, "Do the Vellani have stories too?" "I do not know," Do-Yoon admitted. "Will you tell me one?" And so Tilly told him a Vellani story. It was about a star that fell from the sky and became a flower. The story was simple, meant for very young children, but Do-Yoon listened carefully and asked questions. He treated her story with the same respect she had given his. The next evening, Tilly came back. This time, her brother Moru came too. The evening after that, all 5 of Elora's children came by the end of the week. There were 12 Vellani children sitting on the floor of Do-Yoon's small room. Listening to stories about Earth. He told them about the old man who tried to move a mountain. Not with machines or magic, but with patience. Every day, the old man dug at the mountain with a simple shovel. People laughed at him. They said he was foolish. But the old man said it did not matter if he could not finish the work. His children would continue, and their children after them. The story said that even the gods were moved by his determination, and they sent giants to carry the mountains away. "Humans really believe that patience can move mountains?" asked Kessa, who was always serious and thoughtful. "It is not about the mountain," Do-Yoon explained. "It is about never giving up. Humans have survived many terrible things. Ice ages when the world froze. Diseases that killed millions. Wars that destroyed cities. We survived because we kept going. We never gave up hope that tomorrow would be better. The children looked at each other. This was not what they had been told about humans. They had heard that humans were monsters. They had not heard that humans were hopeful. Soon, Do-hyun's small room was not big enough. He started telling stories in the community garden instead. He sat under the artificial trees while children gathered around him. Parents stood nearby, watching Dot. At first, the parents looked worried. They kept their distance, but slowly they came closer. They started listening too. One evening, an old Vellani man sat down at the edge of the group. His name was Torin, and he was a keeper of Vellani history. When Do-hyun finished his story, Torin raised his hand. "May I share a story of our people?" he asked. "Please." Do-hyun said. So Torin told an old Vellani legend. It was about the first Vellani who traveled to the stars. She was afraid of the darkness of space, but she went anyway because her people needed new homes. She became the first great explorer, and all Vellani who traveled in space carried a piece of her courage. After Torin finished, the children asked questions. They compared the two stories. They found things that were the same and things that were different. This became a new tradition. Do-hyun would share an Earth story. Then a Vellani elder would share a story from their culture. The children learned about both peoples. They learned that humans and Vellani were different but not so different. Both told stories about courage. Both told stories about clever people solving problems. Both had tales about love and loss and hope. Elora came to watch one evening. She stood at the back of the crowd with her arms crossed. Do-hyun saw her and felt nervous. He still remembered how she had called him in on his first day. But after the stories were done, Elora walked up to him. "My children have not had nightmares since they started listening to your stories," she said. "Tilly used to be afraid of the dark. Now she asked me to turn off the lights so she can pretend to be the sister who became the moon." Do-hyun did not know what to say. "I am glad," he finally managed. Elora studied his face for a long moment. "I was wrong about you," she said. "I thought you were a monster. But monsters do not do what you do." "I am just human," Do-hyun said. Elora smiled. It was the first Vellani smile he had ever seen directed at him. "Perhaps that is not such a bad thing after all," she said. That night, after the garden was empty and the station lights dimmed for sleep cycle, Do-hyun sat alone under the artificial stars and thought about his grandmother. She was the one who taught him these stories. She was the one who said that stories were how humans passed down their souls from one generation to the next. He wished he could tell her that her stories had traveled farther than she ever dreamed. All the way to an alien space station, to children with blue skin and 4 arms. To a people who were just beginning to learn that the monster they feared might become their friend. He pulled out his tablet and started writing a letter home. "Dear grandmother," he typed, "you will not believe what your stories are doing out here among the stars." Not everyone was happy with the changes on Gentle Dawn. Elder Vosk had watched the human carefully since he arrived. Vosk was old and respected. He had lived for more than 200 years and remembered times before Vellani knew that humans existed. He remembered when his people thought they were alone in the universe. Now he watched Vellani children gather around a human predator every evening. He watched them laugh at stories about death worlds and dangerous animals. He watched them play games where they pretended to be brave like humans. This was wrong, Vosk believed. Humans were not friends. Humans were threats. And this human, with his soft voice and his gentle stories, was the most dangerous kind of threat. He was making the children forget to be afraid. Vosk requested a meeting with the station council. "The human must be removed from the family wing," he said. "Better yet, he should be sent away entirely. He is corrupting our children." The council members looked at each other. Some nodded. Some looked uncertain. "What corruption do you mean?" asked Councillor Miva, who led the council. Our children no longer respect danger, Vosk said. They play rough games. They take risks. Yesterday, I saw young Moru climbing on the maintenance structures because he wanted to be like a human child in the story. He could have fallen. He could have died. Children have always climbed things, Miva said gently. Not Vellani children, Vosk insisted. We are careful. We are cautious. This is how we survive. But the human is teaching our children to be reckless. He fills their heads with tales of predators who survive through violence and aggression. The stories I have heard are about cleverness, said another council member. About patience. About hope. Vosk made an angry sound. Hope? The story of the brother and sister ends with a tiger dying. The children cheer for the tiger's death. Is this what we want to teach our young? To celebrate killing? The council chamber fell silent. Vosk continued. I propose a formal hearing. Let the human defend himself. Let us all hear what he has to say. Then we will vote on whether he should stay or go. The council agreed. A hearing was scheduled for 3 days later. News of the hearing spread quickly through the station. Everyone talked about it. Some agreed with Vosk. They said the elder was wise. They said humans were dangerous and always would be. Others disagreed. They said the human had done nothing wrong. They said their children were happier now than before. Dahyun heard about the hearing from Alora. She came to his door with a worried expression. You must prepare to defend yourself, she said. Vosk is powerful. Many people respect him. If he convinces the council, they will send you away. Dahyun felt a cold weight in his stomach. What should I say? I do not know, Elora admitted. Just tell the truth. Tell them why you tell stories. Tell them what you really think about Vellani children. On the day of the hearing, the council chamber was full. People stood against the walls because there were not enough seats. Children were not allowed inside, but they waited in the hallway, pressing their faces against the windows. Dahyun stood alone in the center of the room. He felt very small and very human. Around him were hundreds of alien faces, all watching, all judging. Elder Vosk spoke first. He listed his concerns in a strong, confident voice. He talked about human violence. He talked about predator instincts. He talked about the danger of teaching children to admire creatures from death worlds. This human may seem kind, Vosk said. He may seem gentle, but he is still a predator. In his blood is the history of 1,000,000 years of hunting and killing. Can we trust such a creature with our children? I say no. I say send him back to his death world before it is too late. Many people in the crowd nodded. Dahyun's heart sank, and it was his turn to speak. He opened his mouth, but before he could say anything, a voice interrupted from the back of the room. Wait, I have something to say first. It was Elora. She walked forward through the crowd until she stood next to Dahyun. Behind her came more people, mothers and fathers from the family wing. One by one, they gathered around the human. My youngest daughter was trapped in a flood, Elora said to the council. She was alone and terrified. This human found her. He did not grab her. He did not scare her. He sat in cold water up to his chest and read her a story until she was calm enough to let him help her. Is this the behavior of a monster? Another parent stepped forward. His name was Brel, and he had twin daughters. My children had nightmares every night, Brel said. They were afraid of the dark. They were afraid of sounds. They were afraid of everything. Since the humans started telling stories, they sleep peacefully. They are not afraid anymore. Is this corruption? More parents spoke. They talked about children who were no longer scared. Children who asked questions instead of hiding from new things. Children who played together instead of worrying alone. An old grandmother stepped forward. Her name was Velas, and she was almost as old as Vosk. "I have listened to the human stories," Vela said. "They are not about violence. They are about survival, about small, weak creatures using their minds to overcome dangers. Is this not what we want our children to learn? That cleverness is better than strength. That hope is better than fear?" Vosk's face was dark with anger. "You are all being fooled. The human is a predator. Predators are patient. They wait for the right moment to strike." "Then he has had many moments," Elora said calmly. "My children sit in his lap while he reads to them. He has never hurt any of them. He has never threatened any of them. He treats them with more gentleness than many Villani I know." Councillor Miva raised her hand for silence. "We have heard enough. It is time to vote." She looked around the room. "All who believe the human should be sent away, raise your hands." Vosk raised his hand immediately. A few others joined him. Maybe 30 people in total. "All who believe the human should stay, raise your hands." Hands went up all around the room. Far more than 30. Far more than half the chamber. Miva nodded. "The motion fails. The human will stay." Vosk stood frozen for a moment. Then he turned and walked out of the chamber without another word. Some of his supporters followed him. Most stayed. Dalian let out a breath he did not know he had been holding. Elora put one of her 4 hands on his shoulder. It was the first time any Villani had touched him in a friendly way. "Come," she said. "The children are waiting. They want to know if you can still tell stories." That evening, the largest crowd yet gathered in the community garden. Not just children this time. Adults too. Elders. Council members. Even some of the people who had voted against Dohyun came to listen. Dohyun looked at all the faces watching him. Blue skin, silver eyes, 4 arms, so different from humans. But in their eyes, he saw something familiar. Curiosity, hope, a desire to understand. He smiled, remembering this time to keep his lips closed over his teeth. "Tonight," he said, "I want to tell you a story about 2 different peoples. They lived on different sides of a mountain. They had never met each other. They were afraid of each other because they did not understand each other. But one day, a child from one side got lost and wandered to the other side. And what happened then changed everything." He looked at Tilly, who sat in the front row, hugging her stuffed toy. "Some of you might find this story familiar," he said, and he began to tell the story of how a human came to live among the Villani, and how fear became friendship, one bedtime story at a time. 1 year passed on the Gentle Dawn station. Dohyun's small room had changed completely. The walls were covered with drawings made by Villani children. There were pictures of rabbits and tigers and turtles. Pictures of the sun and moon with smiling faces. Pictures of mountains being moved by patient old men. And there were pictures of a human with no teeth showing, surrounded by children with blue skin and 4 arms. The children called his room the story place. Every evening, they came without being called. They knew the schedule. They brought their friends. Sometimes they brought their parents and grandparents too. But good things do not always last forever. One morning, Dohyun received a message on his tablet. It was from Earth. His 1-year assignment was complete. A shuttle would arrive in 2 weeks to take him to his next posting. Another station. Another planet. Another chance to build bridges between humans and aliens. He stared at the message for a long time. Then he closed his tablet and did not tell anyone. But children notice things that adults miss. "You look sad," Tilly said that evening. She was sitting in his lap, looking at a picture book about Earth animals. She had grown so much in 1 year. She was not so small anymore. And she was not afraid of anything anymore. "I'm not sad," Dohyun said. But his voice was not convincing. Tilly looked at him with her big silver eyes. "You are lying." Humans do that sometimes when they don't want to talk about their feelings. Elora told me. Do-hyun laughed softly. You are too clever. So tell me why you are sad. He hesitated. Then he told her. I have to leave soon. My job here is finished. They want me to go somewhere else. Tilly's face went very still. Leave? Leave Gentle Dawn? Yes. Leave us? Yes. For a moment, Do-hyun thought Tilly would cry. But she did not cry. Instead, she got up from his lap and ran out of the room without another word. The next morning, Do-hyun woke up to strange sounds outside his door. When he opened it, he found Tilly standing in the hallway. Behind her were Moru, Fen, Kessa, and Bryn. Behind them were a dozen more children. Behind them were their parents. Tilly was holding a sign. It was written in shaky Korean characters that she must have copied from his tablet. The sign said, Don't go. What is this? Do-hyun asked. We are protesting, Tilly said proudly. I learned about protests from your stories. When humans don't want something to happen, they gather together and say so. So we are gathering. And we are saying so. Don't go, the children said together. Don't go, the parents said. Do-hyun felt his eyes getting wet. He tried to speak but could not. More people came. By midday, there were 100 Villani standing in the hallway outside his room. By evening, there were 500 filling the corridor and spilling into nearby sections. The station security team came to see what was happening, but they did not stop the protest. They joined it. The story made it to the news networks. A small Villani child leading a protest to keep a human on a space station. It was a strange story. A funny story. A beautiful story. People all over Villani space watched and wondered about this human who made alien children love him. Counselor Miva called Do-hyun to her office. You have caused quite a situation, she said. But she was smiling. I did not ask them to protest, Do-hyun said quickly. I would never encourage. Miva held up a hand. I know. That is not why I called you here. She pushed a document across her desk. This is a job offer. Cultural Integration Specialist for Gentle Dawn Station. Permanent position. Full benefits. The pay is not much, but you would have quarters in the family wing and all the story time you want. Do-hyun stared at the document. You want me to stay? The children want you to stay. The parents want you to stay. Even Elder Vosk asked about you yesterday. He did not say anything nice, but he asked. I think that means something. She leaned forward. And I want you to stay too. You have done something important here. You have taught our people that humans are not monsters. That is worth more than any diplomatic mission. Do-hyun picked up the document with shaking hands. He read it twice to make sure it was real. Can I think about it? He asked. Take all the time you need. The shuttle does not leave for 2 weeks. He thought about it for 1 hour. Then he signed the document and brought it back to Miva's office. Years passed. Do-hyun grew older on Gentle Dawn. His hair turned gray. His face got wrinkles. But every evening, he still told stories in the community garden. The children who first listened to him grew up. Tilly became a pilot who explored new star systems. Moru became a teacher who taught young Villani about other cultures. Fen became an artist who painted scenes from human folktales. Kessa became a diplomat who worked with humans on a dozen different stations. Bryn became a scientist who studied how different species could live together in peace. And wherever they went, they took the stories with them. Tilly told her crew about the rabbit and the Dragon King during long space flights. Moru taught his students about the old man who moved mountains. Fen painted pictures of tigers and children climbing to become the sun and moon. Kessa began every diplomatic meeting with a story to break the ice. Bryn wrote scientific papers about the power of narrative in building interspecies trust. The story spread. from station to station, from planet to planet, from one generation to the next. Velani children who had never met Do-yoon knew his stories. They asked their parents about the human who first told them, and the parents would smile and say he was called the Story Keeper. He came from a death world and everyone was afraid of him. But he sat down and told stories, and the fear went away. In time, Do-yoon became a legend himself. They said he was a predator who hunted only nightmares, a death worlder who taught gentle aliens to be brave, a monster who turned out to have the kindest heart in the galaxy. The last story Do-yoon ever told was on a quiet station night when he was very old. His voice was weak, but the garden was silent as everyone leaned in to listen. Once upon a time, he said, there was a human who was very far from home. He was alone and scared. He did not know if anyone would ever accept him. But then he met some children who gave him a chance. And those children taught him that home is not a place. Home is where people listen to your stories and tell you theirs. He looked around at the faces watching him. Blue skin, silver eyes, 4 arms, and among them, young humans too. Children of families who had come to live on Gentle Dawn because they heard it was a place where species lived together in peace. So remember, Do-yoon said, when you are afraid of someone, try sitting down and trading stories. You might find that the monster in front of you is just another person who wants to be understood. And you might find a friend. He closed his eyes and smiled. The end. The garden was quiet. Then Tilly, who had come back to visit him, started to clap. Her children clapped too. And then everyone was clapping, humans and Velani together, making a sound like rain falling on leaves. When Do-yoon died peacefully in his sleep a few months later, the whole station mourned. They held a ceremony in the community garden where he had told so many stories. People came from all over Velani space to honor him, and that night on 100 different worlds, parents put their children to bed and told them stories. Tell me about the Story Keeper, the children said, and the parents smiled and began. Once upon a time, there was a human who lived among the stars.